He says he doesn't want a serious relationship, yet he can't let you go. You've already recognized the pattern. He disappears, then suddenly messages you as if nothing happened. He says, "I'm not ready for a relationship," but he always comes back. And each time, your heart breaks a little more. Part of you wants to believe that this time it will be different. The other part knows you're walking barefoot over broken glass again. What you don't know is that there's a hidden path Carl Jung discovered in male psychology, a secret that changes the entire game. Today, I'll reveal something that will forever change the way you see this man. The man who won't commit, but also can't let you go. Neuroscience has recently discovered what happens in a man's brain when he says, "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you." This contradiction has a deeply rooted cause in his subconscious. You're trapped in this cycle because you don't yet know the secret code that reveals what he truly feels. Most women make a crucial mistake at this point. They choose the path of fear, of demands, of desperate silence. And in doing so, they push away exactly what they long for most. But you're not like most. Something in you already knows. There's another way. That's why you're here now. You can feel that there's a hidden truth in this situation, can't you? A truth that goes beyond his words. His body tells a completely different story. The energy between you whispers secrets that his mind desperately tries to deny. What I'm about to show you is ancient knowledge, and it perfectly aligns with the latest discoveries about the male brain. This knowledge is so powerful, it can change the dynamic between you without him even realizing what's happening. There's a deep reason why he can't detach from you, even though he says he doesn't want a relationship. And when you understand that reason, a new path opens before you. A path where you reclaim your inner strength. A path where you no longer have to suffer in uncertainty. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, discovered that a man who says, "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you," is experiencing a deep split within his psyche. And within that inner division lies his potential for transformation. What I'm sharing with you now isn't for everyone, it's knowledge. For women who are ready to go beyond the ordinary game of love and reach a deeper level of understanding. The question is, are you ready to look behind the veil of illusion? Are you ready to understand what's truly happening when he speaks those contradictory words? If so, then prepare yourself, because what comes next will change everything. Before we continue down this path of insight, I ask you to do something powerful. Write the word truth in the comments. This isn't just a gesture, it's a message to the universe that you're ready to receive this knowledge. When you write truth, you activate something within yourself. You declare to your subconscious that you're ready to look beyond appearances. Do it now. Write truth, and keep reading. What comes next will reveal the invisible patterns that keep you both trapped in this endless dance, and how you can finally take back control of the situation. Have you ever felt that tension when he says he doesn't want a relationship, yet still suggests meeting up? That floating moment when your heart beats faster, when your intuition whispers that there's more behind his words. That's the moment when the visible meets the invisible, the conscious meets the unconscious. Jung discovered something fascinating about the male psyche. When a man says, "I don't want anything serious," part of him truly believes it. That's his conscious self, the part that fears losing freedom, that fears commitment. But there's another part, a deeper one, that keeps pulling him back to you. Neuroscience has shown that the male brain releases oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone, when he's near a woman he's attracted to. This hormone creates a physical need for closeness, directly opposing what his mind is saying. That's why he seems so contradictory, because he is. Within him rages a quiet inner conflict between what he thinks he wants and what his body and soul actually crave. And right in that inner conflict, you have more power than you could ever imagine. Have you heard of Jung's theory of thema? It describes the feminine energy that exists within every man, the part of him that longs for closeness, intimacy, and connection with the feminine. When a man meets a woman who awakens his anima, he feels a deep, irrational pull. It's as if you're holding up a mirror to him, a mirror reflecting a side of himself that was previously hidden, a side even he doesn't know. And that's what frightens him most, deeply, because discovering that part of himself means facing his own vulnerability. It means confronting ancient fears embedded in the male psyche, the fear of being consumed by the feminine, the fear of losing his identity, the fear of not being enough. These fears are not rational. They are archaic. They come from a time when male survival depended on autonomy and strength. When he says he doesn't want a serious relationship, but still wants to see you, it's the echo of those ancient fears. It's not about you. It never was. It's about the inner conflict within him. Most women respond to such words with pain and frustration. They try to change his mind, prove their worth to him, or withdraw completely, convinced that they're not enough. But all of these reactions come from the same misunderstanding, a failure to see what's truly happening. When you respond with fear or withdrawal, you only confirm his deepest insecurities. You become what he fears most, a threat to his freedom, or someone who will abandon him just when he needs you most, a vicious cycle that traps you both in a painful pattern. But there is another way, a way that Jung discovered when he studied ancient religions and sacred rituals of union. The priestesses of old understood the power of polarity. They knew how to dance with masculine energy without controlling it and without running from it. They understood that the secret was not to fight against the masculine nature, but to honor it while remaining deeply anchored in their own feminine essence. And modern neuroscience confirms this ancient wisdom. When a woman remains centered, without falling into fear or retreat, she creates a safe space in which a man can explore his own vulnerability. Have you noticed that he sometimes seems more open, more connected to you? Those rare moments when his defenses fall and you see something deeper in his eyes. In those moments, you're witnessing the awakening of his soul. You're seeing beyond the mask he shows the world. And that's where his true power lies. Not in changing his words, not in convincing him of your worth, but in being the one who sees deeper, the one who recognizes his inner conflict. Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This transformation doesn't happen through words or arguments. It happens on an energetic level, in the sacred space between you. That's why this knowledge is so powerful. It works beyond the conscious mind, beyond his internal defenses. It acts directly upon the part of him that already feels the connection with you. The part that already knows there's something special between you. The part that keeps drawing him back, even while his conscious mind insists, I don't want a relationship. Think about it. If he truly didn't want anything with you, he would have disappeared long ago. Men are simple in that regard. If they're not interested, they don't stay close. The fact that he keeps returning, that he wants to see you, is already a silent confession that something in him is deeply connected to you. The question now is, how do you respond to that silent confession? How do you honor the part of him that wants to unfold, while also respecting your own desires and needs? How do you create space for this transformation, without pressure, without effort, without losing your own radiance? The answer lies in what Jung called the confrontation with the shadow. Not your shadow, not his, but the shadow that exists between you, unspoken fears, unexpressed expectations, hidden longings. When you learn to move through this shadow space with grace and wisdom, You don't just become irresistible to him, you become irresistible to yourself, because this process goes far beyond winning his heart. It's about reclaiming your own emotional sovereignty. It's about freeing yourself from the cycle of fear and disappointment that has drained your energy and dimmed your inner light. It's about remembering who you truly are. A woman with the power to transform, not through pressure or manipulation, but through presence and deep understanding. A woman who doesn't need external validation because she knows her own worth. A woman who understands the secrets of the masculine heart better than he does himself. This is the woman he unconsciously seeks every time he returns to you. This is the woman who has the power to turn his "I don't want anything serious" into something deeper and more meaningful. And it's this very woman who, no matter how things end with him, will find her way to the kind of love she truly deserves. When a man says he doesn't want a relationship but still wants to see you, he's unconsciously asking to be transformed. I'll repeat that because it's crucial. He's asking to be transformed, not with words, not consciously, but on a deep, archetypal level. He's searching for something he can only find through this apparent paradox. Jung discovered that the path to individuation, to becoming whole, often runs through conflicting forces that seem irreconcilable. It's precisely within these contradictions that growth occurs. It's in the space between opposites that the alchemy of transformation takes place. And that's exactly what's happening when he says, "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you." He's standing at the threshold between fear and desire, between past and future, between boy and man. Neuroscience tells us that the male brain is wired to explore the unknown, to venture beyond safe boundaries. It's an ancient pattern rooted in times when men were hunters and explorers. Yet, the male brain is also wired for safety, for connection, belonging, and the need to return home. It wants to be received with what it brings back. These two programs seem contradictory, and they are, but at the same time, they are complementary. That's why he pulls away and then comes back. That's why he says he doesn't want a relationship, yet still seeks your closeness. He's trying to reconcile these two sides within himself. And you, without realizing it, have become the sacred field where this integration can take place. But here comes the most powerful revelation. You don't have to be passive in this process. You don't have to wait for him to resolve his inner confusion to get what you truly want. You can actively create the space in which transformation can occur, while staying clear about your own boundaries and desires. How? Through what I call magnetic presence, a state of being that unites feminine receptivity with unshakable clarity. When you embody this state, several things happen. First, you see beyond his words. You recognize that his "I don't want anything serious" is only the voice of fear, not the whole truth. Second, you honor your own desires without shame and without excuses. You know what you want, and you express it, not through ultimatums or manipulation, but through calm authenticity. Third, you create an energetic field between you where transformation can unfold naturally, without force. Space where he can explore his vulnerability without feeling threatened or judged. And fourth, and this is crucial, you remain completely detached from the outcome. This last part is the hardest for most women, because we've been conditioned to base our sense of worth on the outcome of romantic relationships. Yet, it's precisely this detachment that makes space for the miracle. When you stop desperately trying to turn his "I don't want anything serious" into a relationship, you paradoxically become more powerful. You become the embodiment of the sacred feminine. That doesn't chase, but attracts. This is what ancient tantric texts called Shakti, the creative feminine energy that doesn't force, but invites. that doesn't demand but inspires, that doesn't pursue but magnetizes. And this very quality of Shakti awakens in a man his natural counterpart, Shiva, the conscious masculine that knows how to surrender without losing itself. In practice, this means the following. When he says, "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you," you don't respond with fear or resentment, but with calm clarity. "I understand that you're not looking for a committed relationship right now. I also value our connection. And at the same time, I'm a woman who desires a long-term, meaningful partnership. I'm open to exploring this connection without pressure, but I'm also open to other opportunities that align with my long-term vision." This response does three powerful things. First, it shows you've listened and respect his position, creating safety. Second, it communicates your own desires clearly, without making them dependent on him, creating respect. Third, it shows that you own your life and your choices, making you deeply attractive. Here's a truth neuroscience confirms. The male brain is biologically wired to be drawn to women who present a worthy challenge. Not in the sense of games or manipulation, but in the sense of inner strength. Something he must rise to meet through personal growth. When you show up as a woman who knows what she wants and refuses to settle for less, you activate ancient patterns in his brain, patterns of pursuit and conquest. You don't become easy prey, nor an unattainable fortress. You become a valuable prize that calls forth his highest self. And here lies the final, deepest secret, the essence of what Jung discovered in his studies of myths of transformation. When a man meets a woman who sees both his greatness and his shadow, and yet remains steady in her presence, he doesn't just find love, he finds a way, home, a path back to the parts of himself he's long repressed, a path toward wholeness that his unconscious has been yearning for. That's the most precious gift you can give him, not just your love, but the mirror through which he can rediscover his own heart. When you do this, his "I don't want anything serious" begins to dissolve on its own, not because you fought it, but because you created the conditions for him to realize what he truly wants. And often, he discovers that the commitment he feared is not a prison, but a gateway to deeper freedom. A freedom that can only be found through genuine connection. Remember, your task is not to convince him to commit. Your task is to create the space in which he himself realizes that the right commitment is not a loss, but an immeasurable gain. When you do that, you don't just transform the relationship. You become part of an alchemical process that changes you both. No matter how things turn out with this man, you'll have reclaimed your power as a woman. You'll remember that your worth never depended on anyone's recognition or commitment. That is the true victory. Not manipulating someone to want what you want, but standing so firmly in your own truth that you naturally attract experiences that reflect your real worth. This is the wisdom that Jung recognized. This is the science that neuroscience now confirms. And this is the art that wise women have practiced for thousands of years. What I've revealed to you here is not just a strategy. It's a complete paradigm shift, a new way of existing in the presence of a man who is torn between desire and fear. Now let's explore more deeply what this realization means for your life, your heart, and your future. Because when you embody magnetic presence and see the truth behind "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you," you don't just transform a single situation. You transform your relationship with love itself. Think of all the times you've suffered because of a man who couldn't or wouldn't commit. Remember the sleepless nights, the tears, the energy you spent trying to figure out what was wrong with you. Now imagine letting go of all that pain. Imagine understanding the male psyche so deeply that his words and actions no longer have the power to shake your center. That is the gift of this wisdom. When you understand that his "I don't want anything serious" is simply the voice of fear, not a reflection of your worth or attractiveness. You reclaim the power you once gave away. You stop interpreting his actions as a mirror of your value and begin to see that his behavior reflects his own journey, his own wounds, his own fears. This shift in perspective is profoundly liberating. Suddenly, you're no longer at the mercy of someone else's decisions. You no longer wait for him to change so you can be happy. You become the author of your own experience. And here lies the beautiful paradox. When you take full responsibility for your own happiness and well-being, you become magnetically attractive, not just to him, but to all forms of abundance and love. Because the energy you radiate, when you're centered in your own worth, is irresistible. It's the energy of the woman Jung called Sophia, the embodiment of feminine wisdom, who doesn't need to prove her value, because she already knows it deeply. In practice, this means that when you meet a man who says, "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you," you have three powerful choices. First, you can accept the situation as it is, without expecting it to change, and find joy and personal growth within the experience itself, knowing that you're choosing it consciously. Second, you can set a clear and loving boundary by expressing that you desire a relationship with room for growth and connection, and that while you value your bond with him, you're also opening yourself to someone more aligned with your long-term intentions. Third, you can consciously create the transformative space we discussed earlier, without clinging or running away, by staying present, clear about what you want, while allowing him to find his own path to clarity. Each of these choices is powerful because they all come from emotional sovereignty. None of them are driven by fear or scarcity. And that is the true shift. The movement from reactive actions born of fear to conscious choices born of wisdom. When you make this shift, something remarkable happens. The energy between you changes. The dance changes. He feels, though he might not be able to explain it, that something is different, that you're no longer playing by the old rules, that you're operating from another level of awareness. And because human beings are naturally drawn to higher levels of consciousness, what Jung called expanded self-awareness, he feels inexplicably more drawn to you. Not because you're using tactics or playing games, but because you're vibrating at a frequency that resonates with the part of him that also longs for growth and transformation. That's why so many women report that the man suddenly reappears in their life, often with a new openness to commitment, precisely at the moment when they release emotional attachment. This isn't magic. It's deep psychology confirmed by neuroscience. When you release the energy of fear and attachment, you open space for new possibilities. You break the chase and escape cycle that traps so many couples. But, and this is essential, even if he doesn't return or change, you still win. Because you reclaim your life force, your inner peace, and your trust in your intuition and wisdom. And these are the true treasures. Treasures no one can ever take from you. With these treasures within, you will naturally attract experiences and relationships that reflect your true worth, that honor your desires, and that contribute to your growth instead of draining your energy. This is the true victory that Carl Jung recognized in his studies of psychological transformation. It's not about changing someone else. It's about becoming so complete within yourself that you naturally attract compliments, not substitutes for what you think you lack. Imagine what it would be like to live that way, without the constant fear of what he thinks or feels, without the emotional highs and lows of hope and despair when he comes and goes. Imagine how much energy would be freed for your dreams, your projects, your purpose. That is the gift you give yourself when you truly understand the dynamic of, "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you." And when you stop reacting from old patterns of anxious attachment or avoidant withdrawal, and instead respond from the new awareness of magnetic presence. Neuroscience shows us that when we release emotional patterns rooted in fear, our brains literally form new neural pathways. We begin to live from a new inner space. We make different choices. We attract different experiences. It is both a biological and psychological transformation, and although it may begin in your relationship with this particular man, it gradually expands into every area of your life. You start to view your work, friendships, health, and finances with the same clarity and sovereignty. You become a woman who knows her worth in every aspect of life, not just in love. A woman who knows when to say yes to what nourishes her soul and no to what dims her light. A woman who understands the power of the sacred polarity between the masculine and the feminine and knows how to dance with that energy without losing herself. This is the woman Jung intuited in his studies of feminine archetypes across cultures and history. And this is the woman neuroscience now confirms, one who operates from an integrated state of mind, where intuition and rationality work in harmony, not in conflict. This is the woman that every cell in you already knows you can become. And that is why this insight into "I don't want anything serious, but I want to see you" is so profoundly meaningful. Because it's not about winning at the game of relationships. It's about finding yourself again, a creator, a transformer, a bearer of wisdom. A woman who understands that true love never comes from clinging or chasing, but from being so completely yourself that those who resonate with your frequency are naturally drawn into your orbit, and those who are not yet ready for that resonance will simply drift out of your life. No drama, no struggle. Only the calm knowing that sometimes paths part for a time. That is the highest freedom. The freedom to be yourself and to allow others to be themselves. Trusting that true alignment happens not through force, but through magnetic attraction. That is how you win. No matter how the story with this one man unfolds. That is how you receive the hidden gift within the seeming paradox of his words. And that is how you honor the wisdom of Jung and the insights of modern science that confirm what wise women have always known. The path to becoming truly irresistible begins by loving yourself completely, without conditions, without exceptions. If these words have touched something in your soul, if you've recognized yourself in these lines, don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this message with a sister, a friend, with any woman who is walking through a similar experience, because the pain born from misunderstanding the male psyche is avoidable. And together, we can elevate the collective consciousness of how to create relationships that nourish, not exhaust. And if you want to dive deeper into the art of magnetic presence and masculine attraction, watch the next video that appears on your screen.